Well, hi everyone, welcome along to tonight's teaching on how to develop Bodhicitta or the mind of enlightenment. And those of you who are online, glad to have you here. Let's begin as we normally do by doing a short breathing meditation. We'll take refuge and set the mind of enlightenment in place. We will say a few prayers and then begin the actual class. So first, just get comfortable in your seat. So make sure your back is straight, the shoulders are relaxed. Your hands are in some place where they feel comfortable. And you can keep your eyes open or close them. When you feel relaxed, just feel the body breathing itself. And with the mind focused, imagine that Shakyamuni Buddha and his spiritual entourage appear before you. And picture your parents and every other living being seated surrounding you. And accept our shared desires for happiness and freedom from suffering. And that we and the people surrounding us and the wish for happiness and freedom interdependently exist. As agents, objects, and actions. And being dependent upon each other, the existence as being separate and objective and independent is an illusion. So each of us has a wisdom that can see beyond the illusion of dualistic appearances. And what we want to do is to couple or combine our wisdom with love and compassion. So when we look upon ourselves and others and our wishes, we can abandon the ridiculous ideas of being indifferent to others and ourselves and being attached to others. And dropping these ideas, we can look towards the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, the teachings that they have used, and they themselves as a community, to put an end to our own suffering and its causes, and to develop greater wisdom and compassion and skill to help others. And with this as a motivation for attending these classes and living our lives, we can say, I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. And in response to this wish of ours, colourful nectars and lights shower down from the radiant beings of the refuge field. But our wrong views, our sense of arrogance and selfishness are washed away. And cleansed by wisdom and love, we recollect the four immeasurable thoughts of compassion, love, joy, and equanimity. And we decide to develop these four immeasurable thoughts ourselves and to establish all beings in those four states. And so we say, may all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that is without suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And in response to this Vishanas, again, colourful nectars and lights shower down from the radiant beings in the refuge field. They wash away our sense of personal distress, feelings of malice and overexcitement, and indifference and apathy. And cleansed by wisdom and compassion, we glow with an inner light. And with a smile, we recollect those shining examples of the good deeds of others, deities of refuge. And wishing to possess similar qualities, that we steady ourselves to clear away the final vestiges of affliction, and together the two accumulations of merit and wisdom become enlightened. And so we say, reverently and prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, I present clouds at every type of offering, actual or eminent. I declare all my negative actions, accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own and others' merits to the great enlightenment. Now, everything seems real to us, but it's not as real as it seems, because there isn't anything that exists on its own. There isn't anything that exists without depending upon something else. So to let go of our greed and selfishness and to free ourselves from clinging to phenomena that appear to truly exist. We imagine that our body, speech, and mind transform into a pure land, and that we're going to give it away for the benefit of all beings and to bring about our own enlightenment. And so we say, this ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, the dormant Mount Mary, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offering. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. So the Buddha accepts what we've offered and he smiles at us with delight. And we look up, we meet his gaze by looking into his eyes. And there we find immense kindness and acceptance. And so we ask for 3 things. We ask that our wrong thoughts be ended, that right thoughts be developed and cultivated, and all obstacles, whether they be inner, outer, or secret, dissolve. And we say, Guru Buddha, please bless us and all beings like us to understand and feel impartiality towards one another, to recognize everyone as our mother, and to remember her kindness. to want to repay it, and feeling love and compassion for all beings, be determined to awaken into the state of Buddhahood for their benefit. In response to this mission, an emanation of the Buddha leaves his heart and moves through space and comes to rest above the crown of your head, facing in the same direction you are. The emanation descends and enters the crown of your head, comes down through your skull, down through the throat, and into your chest, and rests just above your heart. The emanation begins to expand with light, and the radiance fills your body and your mind. And the light goes out through the pores of your skin and fills the 10 directions of space. And wherever sentient beings abide, they abide within space. So they are absorbed by this light and utterly transformed into the fully awakened state. And there's no difference between self and other. In fact, you realize it's just conceptual designations. This vast openness. And within the vastness is a feeling of accomplishment. Now the light begins to withdraw from the 10 directions of space, and it re-enters your heart. You can feel your body breathing itself. And you know that you are on a seat and you're breathing. And you realize that this is a meditation of imagination, which has imprinted the mind. But if this imprint be a cause or a condition for your awakening, knowing that as an imprint, it needs to be supported with your behavior and with your thoughts and with actions. I think I want to develop my wisdom and my compassion and every other skill I have so I can be what I've always wanted to be and help others do the same. Mm-hmm. And then breathing in through your nostrils, exhale through your mouth, and allow your eyes to flutter open, and then move your body in whichever way you'd like to. So this is class 4 of this topic. So just briefly, I'll just mention what we've gone through. So we began by looking at 3 types of compassion. So compassion, in terms of Buddhist practice, is important at the very beginning of practice, in the middle, and it's important at the very end. And the compassion we focused on here is the compassion involved when we focus upon sentient beings who are suffering, their momentariness or their changeability, and their lack of inherent existence. Then we looked at the mind of enlightenment itself, called bodhicitta or radical altruism. We know the bodhicitta is a mind, a main mind, that is focused upon others, that recognizes their suffering and wants to put an end to that suffering. Then we looked at impartiality and its different types. And I put here mere equanimity. This gives us an idea that there's another type of equanimity, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, this mere equanimity is the means whereby we balance the mind. And we want to do that to prevent social reactivity towards friends, enemies, and strangers. And then last week, we looked at the sevenfold cause and effect that was taught by Lama and Funsha. So today, we're going to be looking at equanimity, as was taught by a great practitioner called Shantideva. So you might be familiar with his name. He wrote a wonderful text called The Bodhisattva's Way of Life, or Training in the Bodhisattva Deeds. And we're going to look at the type of quality called equalizing self and others. Now, to help me present this class, I've relied upon these different texts here. So many of them have presentations of this practice, how to equalize self with other. So you can see down here in the middle on the bottom, the way of the Bodhisattva. So it's got the most comprehensive explanation of this practice in that particular text. All of these books are very good, and none of them are difficult to read or to understand. Now, so here we're going to first of all talk about these differences between equanimity and equalizing self with others. So equanimity here is the mere equanimity, and this is the type of practice where we sort of like level the ground. So what does that mean? Well, we have reactive states towards our friends, our enemies, and strangers. Towards friends, we have kindness, goodwill, but it's mixed up with attachment. Towards enemies or people who've harmed us or people we care about, it's just dislike, hatred, enmity. And strangers, we basically just don't care about them, but we're indifferent to their plight. So the equanimity that we've talked about in the past is the way to overcome these three states of being averse, indifferent, or being attached. This other type of equanimity called equalizing, we also level the ground there too, but in a different way. And this is the way we see ourselves to be no different than others. Now, we do see ourselves to be different than others. We see ourselves, in fact, to be more valuable than others and more important than others. And this is what we want to change through this type of practice. So is it obvious to everybody the differences between the two types of equanimity here? Okay, so to develop the second type, there are sort of two ways to do it. And one of the ways is two ways within it. So I'll show you what I mean by that. This is called the uncommon Mahayana equanimity. And so this way of equalizing self and others is specific for the Mahayana practitioners. The other one is for persons of lower scope, and ourselves too, but it's primarily for those of lower scope. So people who are not aiming for enlightenment don't do this practice, they do the other one. So we can look at it from the relative point of view, and within that, there's two ways of looking at it, from the point of view of others and from ourselves. And then we can go to the deepest point of view, is the second way. So on the first side, relative truth, The second science of ultimate truth. And you can use both sides to see how we're no different than one another. We're actually the same. So let's have a look first of all from the point of view of others. So there's 3 parts to it, and we'll begin by looking at the first. So from the point of view of others, number 1, it says you and I are the same. There's no point in me being prejudiced. So why are we the same, or how are we the same? So this is the sameness in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. This is a very easy one to see if it is the case. Like I've seen a number of different times in our class, hands up anybody who'd like to suffer a little more. And nobody puts their hand up, right? Yeah, we're all the same. Anybody like to be happy or like to increase their happiness? Because yeah. So it's that type of sameness. Right? So this goes not just to us. We know each other a little bit in this class. But you go out in the world, look around, and go, it's the same for everybody. So we can see ourselves as being the same like that. So then we say, so what is this word? What's the prejudice to do about here? What do you think?
Judgment.
Yeah, okay. What's the judgment we're making?
That we're better than.
That's right. That our happiness is more important and our suffering is more important than yours. You have to develop this thought or cultivate this thought that we are all equal insofar as we all have a natural wish to avoid suffering, and therefore there's no point in being partial or discriminatory. So just as we try to protect ourselves or will help ourselves when we suffer, we've got to see that, well, if we're helping ourselves, why shouldn't we help someone else? And we're the same. But so this is really shocking to me when I first got it. It was like, oh my God, that means I've got to care for you as much as I do for myself. Oh my God, that's a lot of work. Isn't it?
You just have to wish. Because I mean, in reality, we don't, do we?
No.
I mean, I'll do God if I can't lie.
No, it's not. But it's like, wishing to win the lotto, but you never buy a ticket.
Right, yeah.
That's right. So we have to see this reasoning first, and then you sort of get this, oh my gosh, I don't do that. And that's right, we don't do that. But this is going against that, what we don't do.
Hard because the habit is to first always notice differences, not similarities. It takes work to notice a similarity.
But that's just a habit. This is habit. Actually, I saw a great post today on Facebook. So what's her name? Montessori, the woman who teaches the Montessori educational method. So she was saying that the way we're brought up is to compete. Right? To notice difference and to go for to be better. And she was saying, like with that type of attitude, never going to stop wars or this fighting, all those sort of things. So she's always looking in her school for harmony. Where are we to say? So that's what she teaches in the educational method. So this is particularly in the terms of, like look at here with the same, we don't want suffering, we do want happiness. So we come to the suffering aspect, we don't like suffering, we try to do something to help ourselves. Then we've got to see others in the same way. What can I do? So sometimes it could be, just like the same, that we cannot do anything other than wish that they be free of it. But you might find that there is something you can do more than just the wish. So you have to start, we always know the wish is there, but see if there's something else you can do. Now the second is, Because you and I equally desire happiness, there's no need to discriminate between us. But just as we always work for ourselves to be happy and to experience pleasurable results, we do it for others. So why don't we just be ourselves? There's no difference between me and Gary, me and Miffy. So should be something for you. You know, like this one. So most boys say, Miffy will often get up in the morning, make me a cup of tea. That's when she makes herself a coffee and she gives me a cup of tea. You guys probably do the same with your partners, right? It's that sort of thing. You want a cup of tea or a coffee? Partner probably does too. So it's that very simple thing, like that, right? We're the same. And then you try and include more people. Yeah, so no need to discriminate between us. So again, you can see this is sort of thing, I want happiness, I don't want suffering. That's what we're staying on, that sort of thing. Right? Third is, we are the same and that we equally lack genuine happiness. And we are the same in that having suffering, we wish to be free of it, but we're not free of it. We want to be free of it. So everyone's like us, except for the enlightened beings. So either you're looking at people as enlightened or they're not. If you're looking at them as going, okay, everyone will look around me as an unenlightened person, that's my viewpoint, then I know that they want to be free from suffering, but they're not. They want to be happy and they're not. They're just like me. You seem interesting.
It's a little hard to remember that about politicians.
Yeah, so this is true. So when we find what we need them, right, because they're the ones that are going to tell us where we're actually at in our practice. Can we actually do it? It's like that's what you want. You want the people to like push your buttons to go where you're actually up to. So when you feel that natural aversion towards them, you can ask them, you go through it. You think this person likes suffering? You go, no. Think he wants to be happy? Yeah. Do you think he actually is? No. Yeah, that freedom that he wishes to be free from suffering, you think he is? No. Just like me, and I'm just like them. It's been.
I think sometimes I struggle with this when I think that I have sometimes it seems enough trouble keeping myself sorted. And then my dog, and then that's all I have. Sometimes it feels like so. I'm wondering how to hold everything that we just discussed in mind with an awareness of where you're at.
So you have to do yeah, so here's a technique, right? You've got a smartwatch, you got some sort of thing that'll give you a little alarm that'll go off. Set it to go off at some time, maybe 15 minutes, half an hour. You stop and wherever you are, just look at somebody else and go, that person's just like me. They want to be happy, they're not. They want to be free from suffering, they're not. They're just like me, they're just like my dog. There's no difference between me and this person in terms of these wishes. There's no difference between this person and my dog. I'm no different than my dog in these terms. So it's just a way of reminding yourself, that's what we're doing, just cultivate a thought. Because there's another thought, as you know, when it goes, okay, I'm more important at the time, sorry. And this is the thought. So, but this thought is backed up with a feeling. But feelings aren't facts. Feelings don't tell you how things exist, they just tell you how you feel. That's it.
I mean, in a way that that can transform into a feeling of we're all in this together, which is actually something that brings us closer. You know, like at the beginning of COVID, when we kind of felt it was a group thing that we were experiencing, there was a closeness, even though people were locked down, there was a closeness in the community. So maybe.
So I read a story about this guy who he survived the concentration camps in Nazi Germany, right? This guy was blind and he was in the camps. Right? Now you think of the disadvantage of that. Right? But what he did, whatever food he had, whatever he had, he shared it with to other people. That's pretty remarkable, isn't it? Yeah, there are people who've done this. It's like I said, you know, this woman, the Montessori, like she's teaching children to be this way. So our culture and our school, look at our ways of being, is that we've been taught to compete. There's us against them, me against you, me first, you second. That's our way. But it's just a way of being taught. So here we're getting a new way of being taught. And the thing is to look at what we have been taught and where's that taken us to? Where are we with that? If you track back the history of humankind, it's always been about that.
So the equality understanding is fine, logically, but the turning that into action has to be unbiased. No, it has to be biased in that you only experience your own suffering. You know other people are suffering just the same as you, but you don't experience that. I wake up in the morning, there's only one tea bag.
Yeah.
If I make myself a cup of tea, I directly feel better.
Yeah.
And if I make someone else a cup of tea, I just feel the same. I don't feel them feeling better. So in order to develop a mind of Bodhicitta, you've got to push past, you've got to push the other way.
That's right.
You've got to almost embrace your own suffering.
Yeah.
In order to like the blind fellow.
Yeah, that's right. So this is when I talk about how suffering is valuable to you. And the suffering's not, this is what the thing is, we often think of suffering as something unwanted that we don't need, don't want, so we push it away. But actually, suffering can teach you a great deal about things. And most people, you know, the strong people go past their own suffering. They accept it, but it doesn't hold them back. You know, so when you, for instance, the runners, right? So you run and you hit that pain barrier, right? So imagine they go, oh man, that's too much. Well, people do, don't they? They stop. And others embrace it and go further and see that actually I can handle it. And I was just thinking with the cup of tea example, thinking if you were there and your partner was there, you had the one cup of tea bag, right? And you go, yeah, I don't know how you feel, I don't know how I feel. So I'll have the cup of tea, thanks to you.
So in that case, that's pretty absurd. So, what incentive do I have to make her a cup of tea and for me to suffer?
Yeah, to become enlightened.
So really,
Because that's the goal.
there's some gaps there. There's some gaps between.
You need to build a bridge to get, you need another people bridge.
As in, yes, to get enlightened, but there's a whole bunch of understanding.
Yeah, that's right. So this is one of them.
But
And this is one of them.
there's two lots of feelings happening. There's you have the suffering of not having the tea, but you have the happiness that you shared at the last tea bag with that person, and you're really happy for them. So you've got a suffering and a happiness at the same time.
No, it's not at the same time. It's
Is
one
it
after another.
one after.
Yeah, one after another.
Oh, so then you can.
There's another thing too that hasn't been said yet, but it will come up, is that when we look at that, we are the sense of equality here. Right? So the equality here is just in terms of suffering, happiness. That's it. That we're the same. That we each experience suffering, and that we each want to be happy. There's also the sameness that we're not. So that's right, but as this goes along, as you'll see, this thing comes, Yeah, I'm one person. And how many people is around me? And you go, there's millions of sentient beings around me, and they're all suffering. So which is more important, one or a million? So then you go, oh, the larger number of people are more important. So then you give what you have, you share that to contribute to their happiness. But this is only just in terms of the number, right? So again, it's often, you've got to sort of compartmentalize these things. Just one little step at a time.
Just being,
Yeah.
just being mindful of it in a way, just gives us maybe 1 or 2 seconds of, so we don't react, you know, that's how I look at it, that for me, I haven't got that level of equanimity. But if at least I'm aware that I'm getting cranky or, you
No,
know,
but you see, so
a short
again,
circuit.
but we already do this.
Yeah,
It's just that you're not so aware that you do it. Like the fact that, often, I don't know, I sit on the bus, right? So when I sit on the bus, there's always people standing. And there's always somebody who'll stand up and say, take my seat. So it's like they see the suffering of standing and go, well, I'll take that. I know you want to be happy. Take my seat. And they stand up.
You see, as you're happy to help someone, there's two people that's happy, right?
That's right.
yeah.
This is right. So before, it's just one happy, one suffering. If you're willing to go here, now they're happy and you're happy because you did it. Now, so both are just like happy in a worldly sense. But like I said again, you've got to keep understanding, like we're in a process here, right? The aim is enlightenment. This is one of the steps. So when you do it, you've got this inner joy of going a little closer to enlightenment. A little one again, moving away from selfishness, from just thinking about me. So it's just incremental. You've got to, like I said, if you can put it into action, do so. It makes a difference to other people, and it can make a difference to yourself. Well, let's do a quick meditation on this. So just sitting, get comfortable. So your body's upright. You've closed your eyes, or you've softened your gaze. And the body is breathing itself. And being aware of the body breathing itself, you anchor yourself within the present moment. And you observe the ebb and flow of your breath. So one form of equanimity is the profound understanding that all experiences are impermanent. Every experience you have is subject to change. But is it possible for you to cultivate an even-minded acceptance of this fluctuation, this changeability of life? And you meet the transient nature of all experience. And you meet it with a sort of balanced composure. And we meet and embrace the ever-changing nature of our own experiences. Well, our ordinary lives are made up of moments, ups and downs, and rounds and rounds. So can we meet these movements with acceptance, with presence? Can you meet your own experiences with acceptance, with patience? With an equanimous presence. Knowing that all the beings who surround you are just the same as you are. All of them wish to be happy, and none of them are. All of them wish to be free from suffering, and none of them are. We're the same. And now breathing in, we're more intently on the in-breath, and exhale. Now your eyes to flutter open. Now the radical conclusion for that last one from the other's point of view is this. I mean, it's very challenging. As there's no rational basis at all for me to be biased towards any sentient being, in this way thinking some are more deserving, some are less. There are no grounds for neglecting the welfare of a single sentient being, and so, this is the hard one, I should care as deeply for you as I care about myself. Yeah, I know, when Rinpoche did this many years ago, like that sort of thing, I went, Jesus, what that means. If you think if you see yourself as being the same as everybody else, this is a natural conclusion. It is, but at least I was very shocked by it. And knowing how, so I guess I should have been shocked by it too. So when I was much younger, I got myself into a lot of trouble and I ended up in the High Court of Australia, right? The judge is in front of me and tells me, you are the most egocentric person I've had in my court for the last 20 years, right? And I was going to go, is it anybody? Is it everybody? That's my first reaction to say to him, I'm just like everyone. But I didn't know what the word egocentric meant. I wasn't sure. So I thought, I'm going to have a look up to see what that word means. And then I thought, well, yeah, I guess I am. That's all I care about me. But someone who cared about me as much as I found themselves in the High Court of Australia in a lot of trouble. So when I come across this, it was like, I was like, oh, that's just what he said. Yes, I didn't care as deeply for others as I did about myself. Yeah, there's this great saying it, but I remember this one time when I don't know why it happened, but I must have been thinking about what I was doing. And this line from one of the Bible, from the Bible chapter said, so I asked myself, am I my brother's keeper? Yeah, there's a line in the Bible somewhere that talks about that you are your brother's keeper. And I asked myself when I was walking along, and the answer came back yes. And I thought, well, should I not behaving like that? So it wasn't long before I found I got caught, and I was like, yeah, that's like, hey, you got told, just didn't pay the attention. Yeah, so it's going to be like a reverse, but this is the phenomenon. So of course, the thing to take heart from is that many other people have been just like us. We're around right now with their attitude, and they changed. So one of the things that I think it was like Rinpoche up at Chen Rizab Institute, where he used to take off his robe and lie on the bed and let all the mosquitoes eat his body, bite and feed him. And he was just thinking, like, I'm no different than you. You guys want to be happy, you need to feed. Just like I eat. Well, here, eat me. So he wasn't always like that. No one's like that from the beginning. But people, if you think it's true enough and it makes sense to you, you'll be willing to do it. This has to make sense and you become familiar with it, and then you sort of find ways to behave in accordance with what you believe now.
Fran says, I think that's the great thing about impermanence is that we can change ourselves, regardless of what we used to be, to become better people.
Yeah. And that's what I was trying to show you in your meditations too. Remember, it's all about the mind. It's mind changing. Experiences change all the time, whether you deliberately change them or not. They just change. So then you got to think, okay, so are there benefits to this way of thinking and behavior? If you can see there are, then slowly, incrementally, we can't just suddenly change, and you don't want to force it either. It's got to make sense and be gradual. So let's have a look now from our own point of view, the 3 sections. So here's the first point. All sentient beings are equally kind to me, and they have all, at one time or another, been my closest friends and relatives. So this, of course, is based on this idea of continuity of mind and countless rebirths. So again, this is one where you've got to sort of work it out. And one of the things is you've got to ask them, like, what is mind? What would be the problems if I said it had a beginning, this idea of continuity of mind? What would be the problems if I said it had an end? Now, there are types of consciousness that do have beginnings and ends. So you've got to understand that. There are some that begin and end, some that have no beginnings and end, some that have a beginning and end, and finally there's a type of consciousness that has no beginning and has no end. So that's the one we're talking about here when it comes to being related to everybody and having everybody be kind to you. Next question is, am I my consciousness? So the Buddhist schools that say that will go, yeah, you are. Middle way consequence goes, you're not. But you are imputed to that mind. So whatever that mind experiences, you experience. And that's how, so all sentient beings, you work that out and go, okay, so that's the case with everybody then. Then mother is just the name imputed to mind. Friend is just a name imputed to the phenomena of mind. All phenomena exist like that, conventionally. And if this phenomenon has been beginningless, of course, these names change all the time, don't they? And that mind is changing all the time too. There's nothing stable here. There's nothing findable. No one has ever found the mind. No one has ever found the person when they search for them. They always find emptiness. Yet this does not say that the mind and the person don't exist. They're just not findable when you search with wisdom to find them. They don't intrinsically exist. They don't objectively exist. If you don't look, well, hey, here we are. Right there. So this is what you sort of got to do, and it takes a little time. You've got to ask yourself these questions. Who is the person? Who is the friend? How do they exist? What's the problem? If I say the mind has a beginning, I'm not going to go, well, I know that some do, but this one is saying it doesn't. What am I thinking if it has a beginning? Why does it have no end? These sort of questions. You've got to ask yourself that, and if you don't know the answer, then ask somebody like who thinks, well, this is why.
So are you saying that if we ask those questions, then naturally we will come to this conclusion that
Yeah.
therefore
So when these
everyone-
questions are answered, this is the natural conclusion that we come to. It's also true that all sentient beings will be equally unkind to you and hurt you too, and be your enemies. That's also true, but that's not what you're focusing on, right? You're just going to take this aspect of it and go, right, this is the part I want to focus on.
So I have an anxiety episode in 5 minutes flat.
So number 2, so the kindness of sentient beings is not confined to when they are friends and relatives alone. The kindness of when they are your enemies is even boundless, is even in many ways more important to you. Now, this is not something we often think of, but what I've found is that if you read enough biographies, you'll find that people become like great through meeting these obstacles and overcoming them. That's what the greatness is.
Hero's journey.
Yeah, that's right. So you have to be act heroically.
So is that kind of saying that if you don't meet the difficulties, any of that kind of strength or greatness is just left there as potential?
Yeah, and you can fool yourself, right? You can
Yeah.
think you're much better than you are until you meet something you didn't expect, right? And then you find actually I'm weak. Yeah, so the great thing here with while I'm meeting the enemy is for patience, because to develop spiritually requires a lot of patience. It requires you a lot of bearing of difficulty. Now, when we come to the next section, the thing is with this, at the same time, you've got to keep asking yourself, how do these things exist? So at the moment, I'm going through a section in a text we're studying. It's called Insight. But the section we're talking about at the moment is the mind, and in particular, how phenomena exist. And what's really marvelous about it is this, this thing you think, okay, like we have this enemy and we have this phenomenon called patience. So you won't have patience unless you have an obstacle, an enemy. You can't have, you need the enemy to have patience. Patience does not exist independently of some difficulty. So we see patience being a good quality. Well, then you need something to go up against, but to be patient towards. So there's a dependent relationship there. The other thing is that when we look at things like if you just hear the word enemy itself, or if you have a person, if you call an enemy, a bad person, a difficult person, unlikable person, whatever the name is you want to give them, just say it and towards that person, like people were saying before, politicians are easy ones, right? Just say it with a, see them and go, right, okay, say the name, and now tell me, how did they look to you? How do they appear to you when you say that?
Different
Different in what way?
from me.
Different from you, that's for sure they're different from you. Yeah, yeah. And what else? What makes a difference?
Our attitude,
What's making our attitude different?
our thought,
What's making the thought different?
reframe.
So
The mind.
the name. It's the name.
Meaning the concept of them.
Yeah, the concepts of thought, construction of it, that's an imputation too, but it's the name. You put the name enemy on them, bad, that's how they're going to appear to you.
So my new friend Trump,
It's-
I gotta try that.
yeah. No, so really, some time ago, I mean, George Bush was in power. A lot of people didn't like George Bush or his son, both Bushes, right? So who's the other one, the last one, the younger one, the son? Is that George?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah, George, like George Jr. So, but as long as the Dalai Lama really liked him.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
holding hands.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I really love George Bush. I disagree completely with his politics, but I like George,
Yeah,
right? So that's right. So, when you, like I said, you get the person, you put the name on, seems to come back, towards you as that bad person. George is the bad man, or Trump is like this. However you want to describe him, Trump and the description you give him seem to be one and the same thing, right? And it comes back to you, and you don't like it. But you've got to remember, you put it out there.
But that also means that he's valuable. He's good. He's a gift. Probably is a gift.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. From this perspective, yeah, from this perspective, yeah.
So like the Dalai Lama, like well,
Yeah.
it's that kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something like we've got this person who you would naturally feel aversion to, but now you don't. Because there's some benefit there.
That don't mean he stops being valuable.
So,
Like he stops being valuable if you start liking him.
no, now you get the value. Value, there's no value there if you dislike him, right?
Yeah, if you dislike him, then he's valuable. He's good.
No, why? In what
Because
way?
he helps you learn. He's an enemy. He helps you learn patience and to develop.
Yeah, that's right. So when you impute when you impute the word enemy to them, the natural thing from our side is to dislike them, right? And go against them. So here it's like, okay, if we see them as an enemy, then this is like, so how are they valuable to us? By us restraining from behaving towards them as if they were enemies. So the enemy becomes like valuable to you.
I guess that's why maybe the West and Europe now is inaugurating or going to inaugurate. They're trying to make him less of an enemy, dealing with an enemy.
Yeah, well, that's
Have you
right.
heard
It's not such a, yeah,
Yeah, they actually go there to some of them
yeah.
for the inauguration of accepting him as a leader.
Well, many of the, yeah, you look at many of the world problems, they come with, as they label some country or the leaders of the country as enemies, right? Then how do they behave towards them? Not, like,
They're trying
no,
to.
they
Yes.
want to destroy them usually, don't they? Harm them. That's the normal way to work towards an enemy. But here it's going, if you do that, you succeed, you harm yourself too. So there's no way to develop a mind of enlightenment through harming others. You're putting something?
The paper filter, can you turn it off?
Oh. that's
Our friends just said she had a difficult interaction with a person in a business this morning, and her initial response was to get upset, and her ego really did a number on her. But after 10 minutes, she was able to have more compassion and care for her, and she was able to respond to her in that way immediately. But at least I didn't dwell on it for hours with
Yeah,
resentment.
that's right.
So
Yeah, yeah.
like said, incremental progress.
And this is what it is, right? So it's incremental progress. Yeah, so when they so I read quite a few biographies. And what I like to read, the ones I really like are the ones where people start off as being victims and very, very weak. And then suddenly they become like Superman at the end of it. Right? But the journey towards becoming a Superman is a very, very difficult journey. And so it's sort of very much like military training. Right? So I don't know whether any of you guys have been in a military thing, but I would find myself, I would probably be a bad candidate. Right? Yeah, I would, yeah, I'd rebel and I'd be be difficult. But it's the same on that, you know, so that's why I'd never make a good military person. So the good ones go in there, they take all that crap that they do, and they change. But they use it to make themselves really good soldiers, strong, effective soldiers. Where I'd just be in the brig, I'd be locked up, I know I would be.
It's part of the training too.
Yeah, that's right. It's a training. It's a training.
I think in America they shout at each other as well.
Yeah, that's right. And so, you know, so often I imagine that somebody, you know, yelling at me in the face like they do there, it's like, wow, that's probably really good for me. Actually, to cop things like that.
not react.
Yeah, not react and go, you know, but again, it's not so when we don't react, it's like, why are we not reacting? That's the thing. That's the most important thing. It's not just to like bear it and go, I'll get you later. Because that's my normal attitude, right? That's no good. So you've got to sort of see there's got to be some benefit in it. And the benefit here, of course, is mind of enlightenment, becoming a Buddha, having equanimity towards all. There's many, many benefits. So with this training course, you know, it begins by a lot of focus on the benefits. In fact, David Bodhicitta's way of life, the first chapter is the benefits of a mind of enlightenment. You sort of got to know what you're in for here, up front. You don't want to load up later on after you've been hurt and struggled and done all these things. Just go, oh, yeah, I know what I'm doing here. This is why I'm going to do it. And as you see, the wisdom aspect plays a major part of this too. But because what happens to us most of the time, we cling to the appearances. You know, like for instance, if somebody starts yelling in my face, I immediately have appearances arise and they're covered up with conceptions and they're like, you know, I don't like you. Straight up, that's what happens to me. Right? So I can't develop any mind of enlightenment with that type of attitude. So for me, that's what I've got to work with. Right? I've got to go, right, put someone in front of me and start screaming and yelling, and I've got to conceive of them differently. Because it's like you say, it begins with the mind. We have to see it differently before we can act differently. Ben?
Cool, like as you were talking, I was thinking like, you know, if you say, oh, you're not my enemy, you're my friend, does that suddenly make it okay that they're screaming in your face because they're not doing that? But then I realized that you can be friends with someone and still disagree with them
Yeah.
and still say, hey friend, it's not a good idea to do that, which you're less likely to do if you're thinking someone is an enemy because of like,
That's right.
just leave, like, or go
Yeah.
back.
And you have more chance of helping if you're a friend.
Yeah.
If you thought they're enemy, they're not going to listen to you ever.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so this is a sort of, yeah, so in your mind, some of these so-called difficult people are great helpers. But like they're friends and that they're moving you closer towards enlightenment. They're moving you closer towards your development of good qualities. Even though their behaviors might be bad and so forth, or that we normally think of as bad and horrible, you can go, yeah, but that's not how I'm gonna look at it.
So yeah, like it's still, it should be that moment of stopping ourselves from reacting so that we can maybe choose to react, to act in a more
yeah.
skillful way by active listening, like saying, oh gee, you're really upset about something.
Narcissists are very good to be around to actually learn these skills.
Yeah,
If you're around narcissists.
Yeah, that's right. So, in fact, in terms of thought transformation, in old Tibet, once you got good at this, thinking about it, and so what they normally do is you train yourself in your room or your cave, right? And how do you do it? You imagine. Well, you work out quickly. What is it you don't like? Yeah, okay, it's this people screaming in my face, telling me what to do, asking me to do it again. Okay, imagine them there telling me to do it. So you just imagine it, try to make the experience as real as possible, see what comes up, and then behave differently. But your behavior has got to be based on this, like it's valuable to you. You've got reasoning. So you can actually do it. Then you go out in the world and try it out. So now you put yourself in these difficult situations. See how you go.
just quickly, a bit like the telephone people, when you ring them up, no, they do, I sometimes get cranky and say blah, 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 and they go, look, I'm really sorry, they use a nice script. And you think,
Sure.
how do you do it?
That's
Deal with irate customers, and they do. And so they're not reacting, thinking that they are going, yes, let's try and work this out. And I think that's how I have to be.
And that brings us to the next point, the third point, which is we're all subject to suffering and impermanence. So just like that, when Bev's up on the line upset, they're going, yeah, she's upset. Acknowledge her upsetness. That's what they do. They don't take it on and take it personally,
No.
right? They go, that's right, they've got a script to go, I'm trying to help you. So again, the focus is off themselves, it's on the other. They're going, you're important to me. You're important to our company. So let me help you. And this is the same thing we're going, the belligerent person is important to me. They're valuable, they matter to me. Like why? Because they draw me ever closer to enlightenment. Without this person, I couldn't develop my good qualities. I wouldn't even know what they were. I think I'd be fine, in fact. But you might not be. So they're like the person who's going to keep you honest.
That's what Letitia had, these bingo.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Because I've read especially the story with Letitia. I first came to Tibet. So he took with him a really belligerent Timor. The fellow no one could get on with.
And it was terrible at making tea.
So he took him with him, right, as his companion, to keep testing himself all the time, right, to go. Yeah. But then he met the Tibetans, he said,
Actually, because the other day I was thinking about, when Prince died and how if you do just surround yourself with everybody that supports you and yes men, then it's dangerous.
Yeah.
There's no one there to actually look after you.
Yeah, no one tells you, what's what. Yeah, so we know this, many rock stars or people who have a lot of wealth, they just get people around and go agreeers, and so you sort of those increase your good qualities. So with this one here, to find the viewpoint, end point is, because I can't distinguish between our desires. They're the same. I choose to never be intolerant of your happiness. So when you see the politicians, like, we're not tolerant of their happiness. If we think they're getting away with it, they're harming the people and doing all this stuff, right? So this is saying, don't become intolerant. Choose to help you overcome your suffering. Because see, the politicians, just like us, are suffering. Their poor choices, their poor policies are coming out of suffering. And this is why it's very easy for us holiness to say, yeah, I like the man. And a lot of people do. That's what they say. George Bush is a great guy. But in terms of politics, if you ever saw, what was that? Did you guys see the film about the, what's his name?
Dictator in
The guy that was right beside him was like the vice president. Vice, it was called Vice. Have you seen that? Oh man, that's like, yeah. So he actually took control of America when the planes attacked. Right, George didn't know what to do. The vice president did. What a character! Yeah. Yeah, so George is sort of like a nice bloke, but not such a great big guy. But people are very easy to take advantage of. So I guess this is what we looked at from the, we began by looking from the viewpoint of others, and now we looked at from our own viewpoint. So get us to a meditation. So you're sitting comfortably, you're at ease, your shoulders are relaxed, and your eyes can gently close. When your eyes close, you can become aware of the body breathing itself. And without clinging, you can notice your sensations, you can listen to the sounds. And it might be possible for us to think that if the mind has no beginning, this is the very subtle mind, has no beginning and no end, then all beings have been in different types of relationship with us. In fact, all beings have been our closest friends and our relatives throughout time. And everything sustaining our life was produced and given by others with kindness. So without discriminating, is it possible for you to acknowledge the immense kindness that you have received throughout this life and other lives? So let go of any old hurts and meet them all with a balanced, equanimous presence. If you cling to the wrongs of the past, they create only suffering in the present. And harming others who are caught in cycles of suffering serves no real purpose, as we all face the same end. And joy and happiness arise from wishing happiness for others. Just imagine the abandonment of attachment, aversion, and indifference. And what might arise? A warm and friendly attitude. To accept others with compassionate knowledge. Recognizing that resistance will breed more suffering. And when we go out into the day, try to meet others with a sense of equanimity. Seeing sameness rather than difference. And breathing in, exhale, let your eyes start to open. This is a great quote from Arya Shantideva. It's from the Bodhisattva's way of life. And you can see it says, whatever joy there is in the world arises from wishing for others' happiness. And whatever suffering there is in the world arises from wishing for your own happiness. So again, it's terrific when you ask yourself, how happy am I with all my focus has just been on me, like how far have I got in my life? You ask yourself that, you go, oh, maybe it might be more skillful to do that towards the others. So now we have a look at the deepest point of view. So the first one is, there are no true enemies. What do you think that means? Ben,
There are no inherently existent enemies.
what does it mean that there are no inherently existent enemies?
The enemy is a dependent rising.
Okay, so that's right. And what does that mean?
It means that really like it.
Not
And what
from their
was-
own side,
Yeah.
no enemy from the side of the enemy.
The enemyness comes from inside our own mind rather than from there.
Yeah, so all of that's correct, right? So
But the enemy doesn't exist as it appears.
yeah, that's the one. I was just going to say, so when we talk about true, so this is where we talk about true existence. So true existence from the middle way consequence school means existing as it appears to you. That's true existence. So they say, well, look, things don't truly exist. They might appear, like your enemy appears to be a true enemy, but they don't exist like that. That's what you mean by this true. There are no true enemies. So in fact, what's this, Byron Katie? So when you think someone is a true enemy, her first question is it true? That's the first question. The first thing you do, inquire, self-inquiry. Is it true what you think? So why is it not true? So he's a great enemy of America, right? That's right.
It's my
Yes,
buddies.
buddies.
Happy chatting.
Happy chappies, that's right. So it's not true because they're not permanent. We see this again and again throughout history, and you know yourself in your own life. First of all, a lot of times you don't know the person, Then they do something you don't like, and now they're your enemy. Then they come along and say, I'm really sorry what I do. And here's $1 million. I'm so sorry. And you go, oh, mate. Now you're my friend. Huh? That's how it is, isn't it?
Yeah, so you can have an enemy and even forget why.
Yeah.
They're an enemy.
And you can be wrong, completely wrong. Yeah. And you realize that you're wrong and something you change immediately, so now they're not your enemy.
Yeah, like that story you said the other week about that person you rang after 20 years.
Yeah, that's right. It happened. Yeah. So I thought I'd hurt this person, when I was much younger. And it's always bothered me about it. Actually, in fact, it was even worse when I got somebody else to hurt them, because I was that sort of bloke. I went one step back, spear somebody else into them. Anyway, it bothered me, right, for a long, long time, most of my life. And I thought, I'm going to ring her up and say sorry. And I rang her up, and she had no recollection. It never even happened. Never happened.
Wow.
But I felt so, I always thought it happened. I felt so bad about it for like 50, 60 years. It's been way well with it, but I did. Yeah, so, and the other day I was talking to our doctor, you know. So she was telling me that her son is a mathematician and he's into a type of number called imaginary numbers. So I see a number of people shaking, nodding their heads, right? So imaginary numbers, right? So imaginary numbers produce effects in the real world. Even though the numbers themselves exist, imagined, they're imagined, right? So when I first heard it, I was going, what? How like, how can something imagine have an effect on it? And I just went, well, it does, doesn't it? So why couldn't an imagined number have an effect in the world? There's lots of things we imagine produce effects.
Is that like the part of the third and those sorts of things?
Well, I'm just thinking, for us, for instance, well, if you're a kid, you imagine the boogeyman's under the bed, you get scared, right? Where right now we imagine we've got a self that exists inherently, intrinsically, all that, and it doesn't. Produces all these effects, right? You know, the other thing that I thought I'd really hurt somebody for 50, 60 years ago, I never did, but it never affected her. It had a great deal of effect on me.
And I think like with imaginary numbers in maths, they're impossible numbers. They can't possibly exist, but you can work with them and get real world results from them.
Yeah, that's right.
That they've been invented by a Hindu mathematician, and they are actually used in astronomy to calculate things you can't see.
Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, so this is like coming at things from this point of view of what's called the deepest truth, or the lack of intrinsic nature. In other words, things don't exist in the way they appear to you. They appear true when they lack that type of truth. So how do they exist then? Well, here's the next one. Concept is a concept. Concepts of friend, enemy, and stranger exist in mere name. That's what I said before, you like waiting is all about it. The name. You've got to give them the name, and then they're their enemy. So as soon as you put the name out, the effect comes back to you.
Is the
You know?
mutually,
Sorry?
is the mutually dependent part the way you need to contrast parenting and then to know them because of what is that mutual?
Contrast. Like to know hot, you need cold, that kind of contrast.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, so that's the contrast like better, like if they're the enemy, then from your side you must be,
There,
yeah, that's right.
so it's mutually dependent, subject and object.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So this is why there's pictures up there because it's got a river and there's two banks. You know, so you say, well, what side are you on? You say, this side. You
My
say the
side.
other side, well, what side are you on? And they say, this side.
My friend is my enemy.
Yeah, it's just this thing. This is how it gets. So this is why I'm so very careful what you think and say. Yeah, so other things exist like this. This is also why they're like unfindable. Yeah, as I say, when you use this idea of the two sides on the river, right? Yeah, I saw something on the line that I said, oh, I forgot. It was a very funny joke, but I thought that's exactly right though.
Not on one side and last on the other.
Yeah, that's right. They're both on one side. Yeah, and one wants to come to the other side.
Yeah.
And he says, "You're there.
Really.
You're already there. How do I get to the other side?" He said, "You're there."
Yeah,
That's right. So again, it's always good to, I mean, this stuff we hear it first of all, it doesn't stick. But one day it could do. All you have to do is remember it. And as soon as you do, your experience changes immediately. I remember one time going down to the Social Security office, so I got called in there. I thought, oh, I'm in some sort of trouble. So I got a lift down there, and on the way, it's like I'm getting more and more anxious and nervous. And then I just remembered, I just thought, you don't know that. And immediately it just changed. It was like my anxiety just lifted immediately. It's because I've projected ahead. I'd given it a name, a whole sort of thing, and then you get the effect. But when I realized what I was doing, I just interrupted by saying, actually, you don't know that. You think that's what it's about, but you don't know that. And so when I put it this idea like that, there's suddenly a big gap opened, and I went, oh, no, they're trying to help you. They've called you in to help you. And I went in there with that attitude, and it was completely different effect. And I was going, and I'm going to help them help me. Wow.
yeah, which is really different from this. This is how it should be, and then being really cross or anxious that it's not how it should be. It's like the opposite of that too.
You know, things are quite, in fact, open.
Mm.
They're always open. What gives them their reality is thought and language. You think something, that's what you're going to get back. It's like the thing of karma, right? It's action. Action is the thought. And you get the effect back. And like and you give it names, and then it becomes more reified, and it becomes more real. Then you have to challenge it. You know, that's why oftentimes when you get in trouble, aren't you? You're sitting there, you have to outthink it. You have to use all this way of talking to yourself and all these things. It's because you talk yourself into it. You got to talk yourself out. You thought yourself in, now you got to think yourself out. It requires a lot of work. And so this is, you know, oftentimes in the Buddhist teaching, they tell you, first of all, stop doing what's unskillful. But we've got a habit. So the habit takes over and we go and do what's not best for us. So this part I find really interesting, always, the ultimate truth of things is really interesting. The last meditation, we're just about there. Again, we have said we can be at ease. And just allow yourself to become attuned to the ever-changing landscape of your physical sensations and thoughts. The phenomena arise and disappear. But when they arise, they seem real. So I want you to imagine the reflection of the moon on the placid waters of a lake. Where does the moon appear to be? In the same way inherent existence seems to be. As a moon appears to be in the water, our experiences, our self, appear to be in us or us. Terms like friend and enemy, remember they're just words, relative designations. And these distinctions are functions of the mind. They're not inherent qualities. So a person can be a friend and an enemy. How? Perspective. The phenomena exist dependently. Do not cling to them as if they're real and intrinsic. The moon is not in the water. The feelings are not found within the mind. You are not found within the body. And the feelings are not found within you. Let's breathe in now. Exhale. Allow your eyes to flutter open. So this conclusion of enemies not truly existing, not existing as they appear, and so forth, you don't have any justification at all to hold grudges against them. They're not true, they're not real. They're just names you give people. And these are arising out of biased feelings. So you're rising out of forgetfulness of how they've been beneficial to you in the past, again and again and again. And right now they're teaching you to be patient and tolerant and recognize their suffering. So don't ignore them. Have you ever been in a situation where someone's really upset and people are just sort of like standoffish? I'm just wondering what might happen if you ask that person what you could do for them. But what's required of all is like take an interest in their suffering, man. That's what's going on here. Offer some assistance.
Or offer a cup of tea and then ask, what do you need?
Again, from the Bodhisattva's way of life, what need is there to say much more? The childish work for their own benefit, while Buddhas work for the benefit of others. Just look at the difference between them. We're not doing that one. 5 decisions. Stop being indifferent, partisan, just looking after yourself or your friends against the enemies. Decide to get rid of self-cherishing and make cherishing of others your main practice. And look, you can exchange your attitudes regarding self and others. There are plenty of people doing it right now, just to the degree, and you already do this anyway. Many of you, if you've got children or people you care about, you put them first, over and over. It's just to be consistent in the practice and support it with reasoning. So you gradually have to exchange your attitude.
I like your example of giving up the seat in the bus. I think that's really, it's a really simple practice, but it's this practice.
That's right. Yep. It's practice. So now about this uncommon equanimity, equalising self with others. To see there's no difference between you and I. That's the major thinking. And the difference has to do with suffering and happiness. We both want it. We don't want suffering. We want happiness. We got the one we don't want. We don't have the one we do want. Everyone's the same. So there is some material with that on the site. So the FPMT notes, exchanging oneself with others. And in the LTC notes, reasons to develop equanimity. And next week we have the actual practice, the equalizing and exchanging self for others. There's a practice put around the side here. Yeah, so just like if you said, giving up your seat in the bus, it's just to step it up, right? It says, give up your seat. Your sense of importance, your comfort. Somebody else, needs it.
Would you say that in some cases it may not even be suffering because, like in some cultures, youngsters are taught to let a pregnant woman sit down and they stand up, or an elderly sit down and they stand up. So obviously a younger person will not feel as much suffering as an older standing up.
But they still get the benefit by standing up. Because you see the kids that do stand up for people,
Yes,
most of them like to do it. Like they're really nice, genuinely nice kids.
And of course, it's if you think here like this, these practices are to take you beyond. It's not just the practice, right? You do the practice because it's a goal to him. It's a stage.
Like practicing letting someone else win the argument at work.
Yeah.
Even though, just to get the project done, it's not important to be right. It's important to get to the thing. You practice letting them win.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah, but it's only when I was like, ooh. So when I was a kid playing pool, I like to beat everybody. I didn't want anybody to beat me. And I want all their money too. That's how I used to play. And the bloke that ran the pool room used to tell me, lose. You need to lose. And I was like, well, why? Why would I want to do that? Well, I found out.
Nobody wanted to play.
That's right. Nobody wanted to play, and I couldn't make any money.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was going to happen.
That's it in a nutshell.
And that's
Isn't
it, now you lose. Yeah. Okay, let's dedicate to Richard. So, Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of the Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel, Bodhicitta, not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And as long as space remains, as long as human beings remain, may I too remain to dispel the sorrows of the world. So now, the great master left us last year, and he embodied this equality and this exchange of self-concern, be concerned for others. Let's make this aspirational prayer that the new person meets us. So, in holding and spreading the Buddha's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience and the head of the sky. Incomparable, available Guru, to you and make this happen. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, folks online. Good to hear. Thanks.
So Inika said, thank you both. I've been experiencing a few eureka moments in these teachings.
Excellent.